This video explains how you can create the local Git repository on your local machine and then push that repository to GitHub or Bitbucket or Azure DevOps or any other remote repository. So first, there are basically mainly three steps that are involved in here. First of all, you will have to generate the SSH key and then upload public key onto the server, and that server can be Azure or it can be Bitbucket. Basically it can be any server where you are storing your repositories. GitHub, it can be AWS or anything like that. So first step is generate SSH key on your local machine, and then it will create the pair of keys. One key that will be created is private key, another key that is created is public key. So what you have to do is create the key pair and then upload a public key onto the server. So here are the steps to do that. First of all, you need to check if the key already exists in your machine or not. So if you go to your home directory, there you will find this .ssh directory, and if it contains these files id_rsa and id_rsa.pub. So if these files are already there, that means already you have created the key in the past and you don't need to create the new fresh key again. You can use the same key to communicate through SSH protocol, which Git uses internally. Now here you can see in my .ssh directory these files are already existing, so I don't need to create the new pair of keys for me to be able to push the repositories onto the remote server. But in case you don't find these keys or these files in here, what you need to do is you need to generate the new key pair, and the command to do that is this one, ssh-agent. Then T is the type of algorithm that is used to generate the SSH keys. This T stands for type of algorithm. RSA is very popular SSH algorithm. Dash B means how many bits you want to use to generate the keys, or algorithm needs the number of bits. So we are passing 4096. By default it is 2048, so you can create the keys with the 2048 bits as well, but that is less secure as compared to 4096 bits. Then C is comment. A comment is basically telling we are telling here create the key and add this email address with that key, like we are associating this email address with the key. So whenever you will do git push or git pull, this email address will be associated with that commit. Now after this command is executed, you will find there's two files are created here in this directory .ssh. One is id_rsa and other is id_rsa.pub. So this one is a private key and this one is a public key. You should not give this private key to anyone else. This should be kept on your computer safely. Do not disclose this key. But this one .pub means this is a public key, and that you can share with anyone else. Like you can put it on GitHub account or Bitbucket account or Azure or AWS, anyway, because that's a public key, so it is safe to share this key with others. Now once these keys are generated, you need to register those keys with ssh-agent. Ssh-agent is one process that runs on your machine, and we need to register our key with that agent. Otherwise, whenever we will do we'll try to do the connection through ssh agent will complain that this key is not recognized or this key is not found. So first of all, you need to execute this command ps-ax grep ssh. What we are doing here is we are checking if ssh process is running or not. So like that you can execute this command, and you can see here there is ssh-agent process is running and the process ID is 72854. So if it is already running, then you don't need to execute this fourth command, because all we are doing in the fourth command, this one, is that we are starting this ssh-agent. So if it is already running, don't need to run this command. Next step is you need to add the key. This is the private key. Remember, you need to add the public private key to the ssh-agent using this command ssh-add. And after that you can add the public key in the remote repository settings. So public key is this one and private key is this one. You have to register this one with using ssh-add command. You have to use that key, and this key should be stored on a GitHub server or Bitbucket server. So for example, if you talk about GitHub, you can go here, and then in the settings you will find ssh section, ssh and gpg keys. And you can see there is one key that I have added here. You can click on new ssh key and then give the title and paste that information in that key over here. So that is about this step. All we have done in this step is we have created the ssh keys, and then private key will be registered with ssh-agent. Public key will be pushed onto remote server, or saved on the remote server, you can say. So this is just our first step. Now next step is you have to create the empty remote repository on Azure or GitHub. Why empty? Because you have created your project locally, and what you want to do is you want to push your local repository onto remote repository. So we need to create that remote origin repository, because without that URL we will not be able to push the changes, and that's why we need to create this empty repository. It's very important. We have to create empty repository without any files in it. So whenever you create a new repository in say GitHub, what happens is it will by default try to add some files. For example, most of the people will try to add this readme file or add Git Ignore file when creating the repository. So recommendation is that you should not add any files when you are creating the fresh repository onto which you are going to push your local changes. Otherwise push will be unsuccessful. So after you create the repository, you will be given one ssh URL of the repository. For example, if you talk about this repository, you can see if you click on clone or download, this is HTTPS, and if you click use SSH, you will get the SSH URL. So this URL you need to use in the next step, and that is the final step. So here is the final step. In this step, what we are going to do is, let us say you have got a project. Now we want to initialize new Git repository locally, and then push that local repository to the one that we have created in this step 2. So here are the commands. First command is git init. This is gonna create or initialize new repository for your under your local directory. So let's say you are in this WebDriver IO directory. All you have to do is just put git init, and then new repository will be created or initialized. Next important thing is we need to add Git Ignore. This is very important because especially let us say you are working on Node.js project. In that node_model directory is created in which models are saved, and which we do not want to like Git to track it. We should not track those like changes in that folder. So for your project, based upon your project, you will need to add Git Ignore file or create a Git Ignore file and add the folders and files that you want to ignore. So here what we are doing is we are just creating a Git Ignore file. This is the Linux command to which will create the Git Ignore file, or if it already existed, we will append that with this node models folder. So all the files in the node models directory will be ignored by Git. It's very important thing, because if you keep tracking all the files, it becomes mess. Next step is you have to use git add -a. Now -a means add all the tracked files into the staging area. then you have to use this command git commit am. So all the files will be committed, and this is the commit message. Finally, to push the changes, you need to add the remote origin. So this is the command git remote add origin. So when you create the fresh repository in this step, you get one URL, and by default that repository name is origin. So we are putting origin there, and then the remote URL. So this is the URL that I was talking about, this one that you need to put there. And finally we have got this git push -u -all. It means the master branch or the branch that is set up locally will be tracked remotely. That means, let us say you have got the repository and there is one branch master. So when we will push this repository using this command, the changes from the master branch will be pushed to the master branch of the remote repository. And similarly it will happen for all other branches. Let us say there is another branch called A locally, and also there is another branch remote with the same name, then those changes will be pushed to that branch. That's why we have used -all. U means upstream, and what we are doing is we are pushing those local repository changes to the remote one. And at this step you will have all the changes from local repository on your GitHub account. So these are all the steps that you need to follow to push your local repository changes onto remote server. If you have any questions about any steps in here, let me know through the comments. Thanks for watching this video.